make the announcement that Elvis is no longer with us, and I couldn't do the announcement. I couldn't make the announcement. The press, I told the PR guys, you do it. I can't do it.
And, God, we're driving down, and the radio's on, and they play an Elvis record, and the disc jockey says, by the late Elvis Presley. I literally went berserk. I realized I'd never see Elvis Presley again. And it's the first time I realized it. And I hit this wall so hard, I crushed my hand. I had to have an operation. Still have scars.
And Colonel was on the phone to Joe. And he was saying, yes, I know, and you need to do this, you need to do that. So he hung up the phone, and I was leaning on the television set. It was on a stand. And I was leaning on it, my left arm, in fact. You know, things become really indelified in your mind. And he walked up within probably 8 inches of my face, 10 inches. And he said, you got to go back to Memphis. Elvis is dead. And I looked at him, and it hit me like a sledgehammer. And I looked at him and I said, listen. I said, you know what? I said, you finally ran him to the ground, didn't you? And he got mad at me. I said, you know what I'm talking about. I said, y'all wouldn't let him up. You kept working him. You kept working him. He said, you need to leave. And I said, yeah, I'm going to leave to keep from knocking your damn teeth out.
When they brought him, you know, to the house and all the next day, I had some relief, you might say, when I saw him, because I realized it's true, you know. You've got to accept it. It's true. Whereas before I could believe, you know, that he was just sick, you know, in the hospital. I was just hearing what they wanted to tell me. But when you see the real thing, then you know it's there, and you got to deal with it.
I got into the house, and there is a group. A lot of the guys are there, and there's little Lisa Marie walking around saying, "My daddy is dead. My daddy is dead." Vernon, his father, is sitting in a chair. He said, "Larry, Larry," and I run over and I collapse into his arms. What am I going to do? What am I going to do, Larry? He said, "Larry, you're going to have to go do Elvis's hair. You got to go to the mortuary, Larry. You got to, you know how he would like to look." I said, "Don't you worry, Mr. Presley. Don't you worry. I'll go."
And I would have never, ever thought he would have died. We all talked about it, but he's too strong. He was too strong of a person, we said. He's going to change his life. And he did. It was tough. It got to a point where a lot of guys didn't want to talk about it.
I think that he had so much to give. And here it is, you know, he hits the floor and died by himself. And I think that's horrible. I think that, I mean, nobody wants to die. And nobody wants to, especially die alone, I don't think. It'd have been so nice if we all could have been around him. But, I mean, as it was, he fell forward on the floor and died. It's horrendous.
I was led by these police officers into a brick building that was very cold, very dark. It was a long corridor. I walked down this corridor, and all I could hear was my heart beating, thumping, boom, boom, boom. And I stopped in my tracks because I saw what was in the other room. There was a table. I saw a body on the table with a sheet. I walked into the room. There was Elvis. I walked up to him. I stood right by his head on this side. Charlie Hodge stood on the other side. There was a few morticians in the room. And there was a silence for a long period of time. I just looked at that face. That beautiful, magnificent face. Now I had to do his hair. And the next shock kicked in. We were off tour for 6 weeks. We had a hiatus period. There was a regrowth, half an inch, so. All white hair. I didn't bring my dyes with me. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do now? There was a lady there, and I said, do you have your mascara with you? And she did. It was a little black, thank God, mascara. It was a little teeny brush. So I smeared it all around, blended it into his black hair that we dyed black, and it worked. It took me a good 45 minutes to an hour just to prepare his hair, because first of all, Elvis was lying horizontally. His life force left the body, so there was nothing there. So I had to work on it, work on it, work on it, which I did. At a certain point, the morticians who were applying makeup to his hands and his upper body like they do, they pulled the sheet down. And Charlie Hodge screamed. He said, what the hell are you, how could you do that in front of us? So the crisscross autopsy scars. They covered it back up. And over the years, you know, the big story, Elvis might be alive. Oh, how I wish that was true. I worked on his body. And I've worked on his body thousands of times. That was Elvis Presley. That's it. There's no doubt about it. And memories just started cascading down. Memories of the first night that I met Elvis, telling me how I must have been plucked out of the millions and millions of lives to be Elvis. There has to be a reason. And things of the last 13, 14 years. It was so unbelievable, so surrealistic. At a certain point, I thought, no, wait a minute, this isn't real. He's sleeping. He's going to open his eyes. He's going to imitate Chief Inspector Clouseau from the Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies. Elvis knew all the lines. He was going to wake up and sit up and say, hey, what the hell's going on here? Let's get back to Graceland. No. I understood exactly what was happening. I understood this is the corpse of Elvis Presley. And his life force, his soul is not in that body anymore. Vernon Presley, Joe Esposito, and a few of the guys, Jerry Schilling and a few others, we walked up to see Elvis for the very last time, because now he's going to be interned. Someone took his TCB ring off, and the lid of the coffin is coming down. And I'll tell you right now, purposefully, consciously, right before the lid came down, I put my hand in, and I put my hand right on his forehead and said goodbye. And I wanted to be the last person to touch him. The lid came down, and I was.
The funeral, during the funeral, some weird things happened, you know. We got ready to load the casket into the hearse after we loaded it and all. All of a sudden, this tree limb broke and made a hell of a sound, really did. Made a crashing sound. It was not that big a tree limb, but it was big enough. And to look at it, it looked green. It didn't look like it was rotted and fell. It looked... So everybody kind of looked at each other, and of course, I think Lamar said something, you know, said, well, he's still at work or something like that, you know. And then we got to the mausoleum, and they had him